Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Soulpreneur Secrets podcast. And I'm absolutely delighted to introduce you to Rosie Norman-Neubauer. And now we only met very, very recently, and we met because we were both wearing hats. So I'm going to hand over now to Rosie to tell you a little bit about herself and her background, and then we'll get on to our chat about hats. So welcome, Rosie.
Good morning, Deborah. Hi, lovely to be here. And good morning to anyone listening. So, what would you like to know?
I'd love you to tell us a little bit about yourself, what your background is, what you do, what you're
Uh,
interested in, what you speak about.
what I speak about, yes. It's funny actually because just this week I've been looking at some of my old, my old speeches and my old posts and things like that. And I found that I've always been interested in the connection between culture and language.
Ooh.
And for the last, unfortunately, I have to say 27 years. No, it's a good thing. But 27 years I've had my own language school. And we now do most of our work online. And I work with people, I work with managers and people who want to go on the stage internationally who are non-native speakers. So, sorry.
What is it you do with them?
Well, basically, I say I'm a polisher. So what I do is I help them to excel in English so that people don't get sidetracked by mistakes, by pronunciation mistakes, by mistakes in things they say, which people kind of like, whoop, they then it completely changes the meaning of what they're saying, things like that, and also how to be impactful, for example, in English. And that's what I personally do. I have, as I say, a language school. So we do others, normal English, shall we say, English for business, things like that as well. But my pet work, if you like, is to work with entrepreneurs and managers and people who are, on the international circuit, really, and are realizing that not knowing a lot of stuff, a lot of the cultural background and the combination between language and culture is throwing them back. It's
Wow.
yeah. So and of course, having done it for this long, it's something that I've seen again and again and again, and not knowing what to do, what to say, when to say it, and what the effect will be is quite hindering, really.
Yes, that's fascinating because I think we forget, don't we, how even subtle cultural differences
Yeah.
can make such a difference to
One
how
of
we
the one
express
of
us.
That's right. One of the strangely enough, one of the biggest things is that, for example, even the States, we apparently apologize 50% more than people in America. Now, with teaching, we're sorry, not teaching, we're talking the same language. But, and of course, there are differences, we all know that. But apparently in Britain, we apologize 50% more. So what does that mean? It means that people who are not familiar with our culture will not be apologizing, and the people, if they're doing business with people in Britain, then these people will be thinking, because this is not happening. And the other thing is, and somebody said once, I've never apologized this much for something I haven't actually done ever in my life. So it's really quite funny. And I think we do apologize too much. But somewhere in the middle is good.
Yeah, I'm
And
sorry it's raining.
no, that's okay. Yeah, sorry it's raining. What can we do about it? Nothing, sorry you didn't have a nice day for your wedding. Well, if we had these powers, then we'd have nice sunny days every day, wouldn't we? So yeah, that's a very good example, actually. And the other thing is that in English, to stay on the good side of your partner, your dialogue partner, and to make a good impression and to keep the barriers up is what I say, not to let them come down and then, sort of be in the way of other business, are things like saying pleases and thank yous.
Oh, tell
You
me
know,
about it.
it's just crazy. It's crazy how many pleases and thank yous we actually need in our language. And others who speak another language and are trying to translate one-to-one, yeah, they don't know that. And so they leave them off. And people start to think they're arrogant, they put distance between them, they don't want to work with them. It's fascinating to see what just a little thing like that can what difference it can make. And I always say it's what you leave off which people will see and notice. It's not what you put in.
It's,
So
I
if
have
you
such
use,
a funny story around that one because I'm
yeah,
half Dutch and
right,
spent a lot of time in Holland. I don't speak it Dutch very well, but I was there for
yeah,
a few months when I was young and
right,
got to speak it reasonably well. I was in a shop with my cousin and I was
yeah,
asking for something in Dutch.
right,
The shopkeeper replied to me in English. And I
yeah.
turned to my cousin and I said, "Oh, honestly, is my Dutch still that bad?" And he went, "No." He said, "You just use please and thank you too often and they know you're English."
Oh no, that is hilarious. That is hilarious. Yeah, what a great example. What a great example. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's the same. Of course, I work in Germany. I mean, I work all over the world with my with students. Very interesting at the moment. At the moment, I'm working with somebody in Japan, so I don't speak any Japanese, so it's quite funny. And I'm learning a lot about the Japanese at the moment, which is absolutely fascinating. But I am actually based in Germany. I live in Germany. And so, of course, I do know the German culture. I'm also bilingual. So I do know the German culture and I know, how the two languages fit together very well. And I can say, for example, to somebody, would you like to come in German? I can say, would you like to come to the cinema with me on Friday? And if they turn around and say, no, oh, not Friday, I can't. That's all they'll say in their own language. That's all they'll say. And it's like I say to them, well, that's great, but if you do that in English, and you just say, no, I can't, not on Friday, unless you know somebody very, very, very well, they'll never ask you again. And of course, the Germans then think, oh, for goodness sake, stop being so flowery with your language, And they say, because I say, no, you have to say something like, oh, that's very kind of you. I'd love to, but I'm afraid this Friday's out. I'm doing something else on Friday, or I've got a previous engagement, something like that. And and they look at me like, oh, for goodness sake, do I have to do all that? And I say, well, yes, if you want to sort of have a harmonious relationship with somebody, yes.
You do, because otherwise we go, they're just so abrupt, and we immediately our hackles go up.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it's I remember a little girl in the hospital once. They were, she was quite sick and everybody was looking after her and she never said any pleases or thank yous. And everybody was sort of like, they didn't realize what the problem was. But then somebody, started to think about it and said, she never says pleases or thank yous. And so there was this little bit of, sort of distance that people were putting between them and her, which is a shame, of course.
Yes, yes, and it's a whole other topic when it comes to children, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely,
Let's not
absolutely.
go there today.
No, no,
Um,
no.
so let's talk hats, because in a
That's
way, I've been thinking a lot about it, and there's a big cultural thing about about covering your hair and covering
mm,
your head, and
mm,
in Britain, men only stopped wearing hats at the end of World War II, and women
right.
stopped wearing them in the 60s.
Oh my goodness.
I know, it's not that long
Yeah,
ago.
yeah,
And there's various reasons for why, but I was sort of thinking about how in other cultures, the women will still always cover their hair, cover their heads,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I thought, in a way, that's what we were doing
Yes, of
as
course. Yes,
women.
of course. Yes.
We were
Yeah,
covering our heads and our hair to some extent, and there was no way you went out without a hat.
that's right. I
People
remember,
didn't.
yeah, that's right. I think I remember telling you that my two grandmothers, I could never understand as a child why my two grandmothers would come in, take their coats off. They might even take their shoes off, but probably not in my parents' house. But they would definitely take their jackets or their coats off, and they'd leave their hats on. And I used to think, well, that's weird. I used to think that's really weird. But of course, they belong to that generation where you wore hats. So either it was part of their accessories, or simply if they took the hat off, they would have a really bad, the bad hair day would start, kind of thing. So wearing a hat myself, at least when I'm speaking in public, and then and also some of my podcasts, some of my stuff like that, I will do with a hat. Um, so if I've had the hat on all day, when I take it off, I think of my grandmothers.
So tell us why you wear a hat when you're speaking, or
I'm not actually sure when it started. I think I was I wasn't press ganged into buying it, but I was with a whole load of friends, and they told me it suited me so well. So I took this hat. I actually have three of these hats, one very light one for the summer, and a couple for the winter. And I had this hat on, and they said, "Oh, this really suits you, this really suits you." And I was thinking, well, it's a kind of bowler hat. And, I'm not sure if I could wear this with everything, and that kind of thing. And, but then I decided that if I was going to go on stage, I would like to have a hat. I'd like to wear it as part of me, as it were, and my identity. And strangely enough, when I wear this hat, I feel differently. Yeah.
can you put it into words what the difference is?
The difference is more confidence, more feeling of self, and feeling that I'm dressed now. I am dressed now. I am complete. So I can go out and deliver all my messages, etc., to the audience, or also, as I say, made me as social media as well. And I feel almost like somebody else when I have a hat on.
Ah, okay. So tell us a bit more about the confidence, and then I would like to hear more about how you feel like somebody else, but they might be interrelated.
They are. I think it's part of my upbringing. I was brought up to be sort of modest, and not really put myself out there, not to be in your face and this kind of thing. And so I think I've got good interpersonal skills, but I'm not somebody who necessarily will sort of go up on the stage, just I suppose dressed without a hat. And the hat has given me a wider personality, if you like. You know, it's been an extension of my personality, and it's given me a certain personality that I then use on stage.
So that brings in, you said you know, you feel like a different character.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what do you think it brings out of you that wouldn't normally get an opportunity to express itself?
I think wearing a hat lets me be myself, you know.
Mm.
It sort of smashes the barriers that I might have from my upbringing, from my, you know, all the sort of norms that I've learned as a child. It kind of smashes them. It kind of says, yes, you can go out there. Yes, you can be silly. Yes, you can be fun. Yes, you can go out there and deliver your message and inspire people and do this kind of thing. As soon as I take the hat off, I'm somebody else again.
Awesome. And I often feel as well that a hat is quite protective.
Yeah,
You know what I
I
mean?
would think, yeah, I would agree with you there. Because yeah, it kind of protects this part of my personality in a way. It gives me the key to opening that door. And once I'm inside, I can shut that door with my hat on and be my very best.
Awesome. So I wonder what it is about a hat that
Don't know.
enables us to do that, because I totally get what you're saying.
So, I mean, I have to say that I'm not really a hat person. I don't have a lot of other hats. I don't know. I don't have a particularly big head. I mean, maybe that's part of it. I don't know. Um, for me personally, it's more a case of certain hats. You know,
Hmm.
it's not. I don't have a hat for every occasion. I know you've got a whole wardrobe
Yeah,
of hats.
to wear the same ones, mind. You know, it's like
Yeah.
you
So
get
what
your
do they do for
favorites.
you? So
Pardon?
what do these same ones you've had favorites? What do they do for you?
Well, I mean, obviously they're for different occasions. So, you know, depending on whether I'm just out and about, I've got, you know, two or three different sort of berets and beanies, which
Yeah.
are more about warmth. But on the other
Yeah.
hand, I like them to be a bit stylish and a bit
Oh, of course.
unusual as
Yeah. Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And on stage, I tend to go for something with a bigger brim.
Right.
I'm wearing this one because I made it recently. You can see it's just slightly irritating. It keeps sliding down. Um, but
Yeah.
there's something about it. It's got a sort
Yeah.
of jester sort of
Yeah.
effect, and yet it is effectively just a beret. So I have
Yeah.
been starting to wear this out and about,
Yeah.
and it is very different.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but for me, I know this sounds probably a bit egotistical and a bit like, you know, but a hat frames your face.
Yeah.
So I feel it's a bit like a picture frame,
Yeah. So good.
you know,
Yeah.
that if
Good
you've got a
analogy.
lovely picture, you know,
Yeah.
which is our face,
Yeah.
and then you want to frame it
Yeah.
because it accentuates the face. But
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
also this is terrible, but I feel that when people are looking at us, making eye
Yeah.
contact with us,
Right.
it almost gives them something else to focus on
Okay.
besides just focusing on our eyes or on
Yeah.
our direct face. Because
Mm.
I think a bit like what you're saying about language, I think people can feel a bit intimidated by
Mm.
just having eye contact all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Possibly. Yeah. Yeah.
And so it sort of it gives something else that is pleasing to
Yes,
relate to
absolutely. Yes, yes,
look
yes.
at for people.
And of course it does make you stand out, doesn't it? You know,
sometimes I think to myself, why am I telling everybody to wear hats? Because then I'm going to have to find some other way of standing out.
But I don't know. I find that people say, "Oh, yes, the one with a hat."
Oh, yes, definitely.
You know, the one with the hat. And at the last event we both went to, you know, people were saying, "Oh, yes, you're the one with the hat." You know, so it you know, it does, because not everybody wears them anymore. But I
No.
have a feeling they're coming back. I don't know. I have a feeling they're coming back.
Um,
Don't know.
I hope so,
Hmm.
because they're
Hmm.
so much fun.
Yeah.
They're just so much fun, you know, to
Yeah.
wear. Um, and you're right, people notice you. I've been working with a coach who always says, "Be more giraffe," you know, because it's like stick your head up above the crowd.
Yeah.
And wearing a hat is the
It's being
obvious
a
thing
giraffe.
to do. Absolutely. It, you know, if you need to stand out for any
Yeah.
reason, wear a
Yeah.
hat.
Yeah.
Um, but
But
what
wear
the
the
other,
right one, right? Wear the right one, right?
yeah, yeah, it has to be something different.
And
Yeah.
as you said before, the one that suits the occasion.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And I say to people, just go to a hat shop or a hat stall, not a wedding hat type thing, but just, you know,
Yeah.
one that has lots of fedoras and berets and things
Yeah.
like that, and just have a play.
Yeah.
And because people say, a lot of people say to me, but I don't suit a hat. And I think,
Yeah.
well, every single person wore a hat until
Yeah.
60,
Yeah.
70 years ago.
Yeah.
Nobody was saying, I don't suit hats.
Yeah.
There was a hat for everyone.
Well, I'm the best example of that. I'm the best example of that, because there are lots of hats that don't suit me. Yeah, but you know, as you say, it's just to try them out. Yeah,
So one of
absolutely.
my things as well, because a lot of the people I think that you know that we're working with, and a lot I know most of the people who follow me
Yeah,
are quite sensitive to energy. You
right.
know that they can pick up on energies that are going on around and can say, I feel a bit uncomfortable here or whatever. And
Yeah,
I find, you know, I know it sounds daft, but I find that wearing a hat actually is quite protective.
yeah, yeah. I'm sure it
And
is.
I
Yeah,
think it's
absolutely.
got something to do with, you know, our crown chakra,
Yeah, could be.
that it means
Yeah,
we're not quite so open to
yeah,
everything that is going
yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's possibly the reason that I wear a hat if I go on stage, because I want to be in my elements. I want to be, you know, I want to be in the moment. And maybe, I haven't thought about this before, but maybe wearing the hat is a little bit of a shell. You know,
It's all
if
a shell. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
could be.
Yeah, no,
I've
I
never thought about
totally.
it before, but maybe.
It's like a, you know, one of those sort of strange dichotomies, isn't it? Because it's like it makes you stand out, but
Yeah,
it's also a shell.
yeah,
It's also very
absolutely. Yeah,
protective.
yeah. It's a bit like going to fancy dress party in some kind of knight's armor, isn't it? You stand out, but you're protected.
Yes, yes, definitely. So,
Hmm.
have you got any other little nuggets of wisdom that you can say about what you've learned from wearing a hat, your experience now of wearing a hat? And
Well, as I say, I think it is a wonderful way to, yes, to stand out, to be somebody you want to be.
mm,
Um, and I think, just as you said before, I think, you know, people should try some more hats on, and also have the courage to wear them. Now, I wore mine coming to England the other week, and And I thought everybody, I wasn't sure, I was feeling a little bit subconscious. And I thought everybody's going to be staring at me because I had this hat on. They weren't. They absolutely weren't. So you know, it's just that little bit of courage that we need to wear them.
And also I think that they add a bit of glamour.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I don't think anybody can pat themselves on their backs for actually wearing a hat. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Because
Rosie, that was so much fun. Thank you so much. Really
thank
loved
you
that.
for inviting me and thank you for having me. And it has been super, super, super fun this morning. Yeah,
Awesome.
absolutely. Thank
So
you.
thank you everybody for listening, and talk to you again soon.